Welcome back to Road to Retirement. My name is Chris Anselmo. I'm here with Tony Shore and Tony Marlette. Maybe we'll have to call one of you Anthony, but um, so we're mid-October. Tax season's ending Monday, thank God, for all those people out on extension. But I thought maybe we just have a little town hall meeting to catch up with, what's someone who's not an advisor thinking about pre-election, all kinds of stuff going on. We got an election coming up in next month, and I thought it would just be good to just air a bunch of, I don't want to say grievances, but concerns that
The Festivus?
Festivus, yeah,
Festivus.
that the average consumer, Tony Shores, you're the typical client, so a little young for a typical client, but that's okay. But so I thought we'd just do that for a few minutes and see how everything's going. So,
My tax season ended 6 months ago. Yours ended yesterday.
I had to file mine and my brothers and all our companies. so hopefully that all went well. So paid in enough, so I was getting a little refund, so that was good.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, so
I mean, in a way, they say that's not good though, right?
Yeah.
To get a refund because
Yeah.
that means.
But if you underpay, then there's a penalty. So
Yeah.
okay. So, all right, Mr. Shore, what do you got for us? I know I hit you kind of last minute on this, so but
No worries. Oh,
Yeah.
I always have questions for you. And you and I have been talking a lot recently about estate and legacy planning, especially elder care law.
Yeah.
And my frustration, I was going to ask you about the market. I'll let Tony Marlette Jr. ask you about the markets or talk about
Or we
that.
can ask Tony.
Yeah, we could ask Tony about the markets,
Yeah.
but my question, yeah, that would be my question for Tony. My question, well, not question, but I am quickly finding out that, and I'm very frustrated and I would say angry. Anger is a real word here. I normally don't get upset and angry. I'm not one of these people who go online and post things or go on rants about things, but I will tell you that long-term care is single-handedly destroying the family farm in our country.
I said this on many occasions that's the next pandemic, or whatever epidemic, whatever you want to call it.
But it's destroying the family farm. And let me give an example for non-farmers out there. In rural Minnesota, rich farmland, corn and soybeans is what they grow on the plains in southwestern Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota. A lot of great farmland there. But is that somebody? I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I hear a little. I thought, well, it's not my tinnitus again, is it? There you go. Whatever you did, that fixed it. Thank you.
I didn't do anything. But anyway, I don't think it's on this end. But my point is our family farm was homesteaded by the Shore family. It was never owned by anyone else. When they settled the land in Minnesota, that land was settled and homesteaded by Shores.
Wow.
My grandfather grew up there. His father grew up there. Yeah. My dad grew up there. And I actually grew up on the same farm because my grandpa's house was on one side of the lane. Our house was right across the lane. So it's been in the Shore family forever. The farmland has been in our family forever. But because of a situation where my mom and dad didn't have enough saved for long-term care, my mom is now in long-term care on the state. So the state is covering, Medicaid is covering. And my dad inherited, my grandfather passed away and passed the land on to my dad. Problem is now the state will come after that land and it will no longer be in the family.
Well, well, necessarily. I mean, you might be able. We talked a little about doing a disclaimer. Is it possible? But is he living on the land?
He's living on the land.
So it's hard to disclaim something.
Yes.
You can't disclaim something you're using.
Right. And that's the problem. So, yeah. And if they had planned ahead, if my grandfather, and actually some family members, including me, suggested this, had my grandfather skipped my dad and left the land to me or in his will, I think that would have solved the problem, right?
Correct. Because your dad would have never owned it. So did your dad, did he own it before your grandfather died?
No.
At all? But he was living there.
Yes.
Yeah. So usually, so the concept of a disclaimer is like, you're not forced to inherit anything.
Right.
So if somebody says, look, I'm going to give you this piece of land, and you're like, I don't want that piece of land because it's whatever. I don't want, you can disclaim and say, I don't, but part of a disclaimer is you can have already reaped some of the benefits and then disclaim, right? So, and you don't get to say who it goes to either. It's basically, it's like you predeceased the person who gave it to you, and
right?
It's go to whoever they wanted it to go to. So, but it's it's hard to file a disclaimer when you're living on the land. Right?
Yep.
So what's going to happen? Either I don't know if in Minnesota they have a state recovery, so they will probably like in Ohio, if they're paying for your grandmother, or is your mother?
My mom.
Yeah. So mom. So they would keep a running tab on how much they're spending on mom. And then when mom passes away or dad passes away in that property, leaving when that something's ticking.
Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from.
Stop. Okay. So when that property leaves your mom or dad's family, then they're going to try and recoup it because they're going to have a lien on the property. I don't know if that is, you need to talk to elder care attorney in Minnesota, but if they have a state recovery, so I mean the other option is to privately pay if you can, but you'd probably have to mortgage the farm to privately pay. So but private, you're probably better off just, I hate to say it, let's let Medicare put the lien on and then try and negotiate the lien.
Yeah.
Medicaid. Yeah. So Medicaid, something, let's say they spend $100,000. Sometimes you can negotiate it down to something less, right?
Sure. And they haven't spent a lot yet on my mom because she only went in about 3 months before my grandfather passed. So that's a plus. So, and then
that's right. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Long-term care in general, though, right, is a nightmare, guys.
I mean, look, I said on other shows, they're spending money on Mars.
Yeah, and I mean,
Mars,
honestly, they're
pay for people's nursing homes.
Medical costs. It doesn't even matter what inflation is historically. Medical costs triple that. Yeah. So, I mean, with all the help that they're giving to people with, all this other stuff with student loans and all these things, you think there'd be some room to subsidize some things that, frankly,
that's the generation that helped build America, right? Fought the wars, all that kind of stuff, but. It's just it's sad because I mean it's in our area, it's running $10,000-$12,000 a month.
Right.
I mean, to save,
and it's changed. This has never happened before, right? I mean, the problem is like when my grandfather's dad passed away, he didn't have this issue. And when I mean, it's now, and I hear it, and it's not just my family. I hear it happening. I talked to an estate planning attorney there in the area, and he said this is happening all over here.
Yeah. So when you say it didn't happen with your grandfather's dad, that they didn't have these issues, was it because it was more affordable, or was it because people weren't living as long, do you think?
Both. I think it's people weren't living as long. And
they're dying at home, right?
And they were dying at home. There's no such thing as, I mean, there were nursing homes maybe, but very few people, and the cost was manageable you wouldn't lose your land. I mean, now I think it is, you hit it on the head, Tony. It's people living longer, but it's also the cost of long-term care.
Yeah. Medicaid's not going to take the land. Right. But they have a lien on it. So whenever you go to dispose of it, if and when you dispose of it, they're going to want to so disposing it would be leaving your, did the land go to your mom first?
No, it's my dad's dad, and it was transferable on death immediately. So the minute my grandfather died, the land became my father's.
Okay. So, but your grandmother's in the nursing home.
But my mom.
Your mom. Okay. Your mom. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So you got that issue. It's a stupid issue, but it's, I mean, like I said, the amount of money that government spends on needless
dumb stuff. Yeah.
They could be paying for nursing homes. So senators and congressmen that are listening, hey, it's about time.
Well, it's a big crisis. I mean, they say, man, we got to have Medicare, we got to have Social Security. I think a social safety net that they've got to have is something to help out with long-term care. And I'm not one for government taking care of people or living off the government. But at the same time, people are talking about healthcare in general or health insurance or college. I see a bigger issue with long-term care.
And I guess it does, but I mean, does it cost $10,000 to keep someone in a 10 by 10 room?
It's insane.
Yeah.
And the CNAs that take care of them, especially in the state-run facilities, some of them start at $16 an hour, and they're the ones that change the diapers and bathe them and help them go to the bathroom and turn them over when they can.
Turnover in employment in that industry too, and that my guess is that's why.
You're grateful to those people because that's a tough job. I mean, just seeing those people.
My son did it for many years during his summers.
It's depressing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that's one thing. I know that's a concern. Tony Marlette, what do you have for us? Well, what about the markets or that situation?
Yeah, really. I mean, September, I think, was a big disappointment. We were off to a little bit of a better start in October, but I think that's starting to wane. We're getting some inflation numbers today, which do not appear to be encouraging. And last I read, if that's correct, it was 0.4% for September, which would be somewhat encouraging because that would put us about 5% annually. But bottom line, I don't think they're getting anywhere with inflation. They're going to raise interest rates again. Fair or not, they look at payrolls, and payrolls are still very strong. So when they talk about raising interest rates, they look at payrolls. If payrolls are strong, they keep raising rates. It's kind of a weird thing that they look for is reduced payrolls, and that's when they begin tapering. So it's kind of like you can't win one way or the other because nobody wants to see layoffs, but at the same time, they have to do something about inflation, which usually means raising rates.
But some of those indicators either lag or precede the event, right? So the time you figure out the payroll costs, then the other issue is now look, we're going to have to raise the price of goods. Even last year, we raised our tax returns. We hadn't raised them in 10 years, so it was time. But look, we may have to do it again. I mean, it's just everything. Paper. Paper was $25 a box. Now it's $50 a box. I mean, just simple things like that. I mean, every time you raise the cost of labor, the cost of the product has to go up. I mean, it can't be absorbed just by the company. So.
Yeah. Well, and as of the recording of the show, Tony, I know that because the inflation numbers for September came out and they actually went up instead of leveling off or going down. So now today, the stock market, it changes by the hour, but it's down right now. And it looks like it's headed downward again. So
I can't tell you how many people I've met with lately that are, say, into retirement, and they come to us like, where do I go? What do I do? Well, unfortunately, if you're into retirement now and you're relying on this for income, you have two choices. You either get out now and forget about and just lick your wounds, or you try to, reclaim some of it, which can really be worse. There's the old saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. So if you're in the market, you have to be in for the good and the bad. And so for me, like if I'm in my, late 60s, early 70s right now, and I'm worried about this, I'm getting, and there's another Tony Marlette that's in that age range. Okay. So, but we had this conversation.
Yeah.
So if it's me in that situation right now and I'm worried, I'm getting out of the market. I don't care if it's going up next time. If I can recoup some of this, that's when I'm getting out and putting some of the bottom on it, because you have to take the good with the bad. Chris, you say it all the time with the roller coaster analogy. Yeah. Nobody screams on the way up.
Right. So, or we have to use products that have some type of protection built into them,
Sure.
And again, people hate the word annuities, but look, insurance companies are the only companies allowed by law to provide insurance on your investments. So you may have to use them. I mean, I'd rather have some downside
there's MIGAs
protection
right now that are paying some decent where your principal's protected in a MIGA, and it's a fixed index MIGA where your principal's protected and you get a good rate.
Yeah. I mean, rates have come up, so that's something to look at. Especially if you're in an older one, maybe it's time to get out and get into a one with a higher rate. But it is scary out there. But I went to I was at the Elite Advisors Forum a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, and all the pundits, at least then, said that they expected the fourth quarter to be positive. So look, it's not going to, I'm not saying it's going to be 20%, but they don't think it'll be negative. So, and part of it, I don't want to get political here, but part of it, they think that the Republicans will at least gain 1 or 2 seats in the Senate and win back the Senate and possibly the House. So, it's sad that stagnation in Congress is actually a good thing. Like nobody gets anything done. Right. So you have, having one party, you have all 3 houses isn't necessarily, all 3 branches isn't necessarily good, but, they're going to have to work together because right now things are not working. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Inflation's high, market's down, bond market's down. We got problems with Russia. We got problems with the border. We got problems with China. We get, the abortion issue's still out there. It's just all those things out there that it's not, whatever's going on right now is not working.
Well, to your point, if everybody, if you have an investment account, you have a retirement account, if you're one of our listeners, if you're down 15, 20% and you've weathered this so far, to your point, you're not, how much worse, I don't want to sound naive, how much worse can, can things really get? Can they? Yes, of course. But if you've weathered this up to this point,
so call us about those what we call buffered products. Will give you some level of, there's one right now, on name company names or anything, but it'll give you like a 15% buffer on the way down. And I think on the upside, you can earn 17%. So like that's plenty, 17%. But if you, like Tony said, if the market's already down 20% or so, the odds of it going down another 15 are not that likely based on historical data.
That would pretty much be a record.
Right. So maybe it's time to look at something that like gives you some protection, because again, nobody screams on the way up, right? So on the way down, would you rather give up a little bit upside and have some protection, or have no protection so you can get 100% on the upside?
Right.
So those are things we were looking at. So
and the bond, you can't, like you said, other typical things like gold and bonds are down as well. So we have the inverted yield curve. So you can't use the old 60.
Big word for a radio guy.
I only know that because of you guys. Tony taught me that one off air. That
was like a 50-cent word, not even a 25-cent word.
No, that's good. That the inverted yield curve is provides some context too. That we're in or at very best, we're in or at very best entering a recession. So inverted yield curve, people, they say they don't like definitions and whatever else, but you have all this context now to add to the fact that we've had negative GDP. You have the inverted yield curve, rates going up, real estate's coming down, new housing starts are down. And honestly, we're starting to see some layoffs from some big companies.
And I hate to go back to this, but one of the big driving factors is oil. Like you change the price of gasoline, diesel fuel, all that. It affects everything.
The price of everything goes up because it costs more to make, ship.
The price of lumber goes up. How does the price of lumber go? Well, they got to cut it down. They got to ship it. They got, it all takes fuel. So when
anything made out of plastic,
and
because
so
it's oil based.
Now look at
people
Florida.
Don't realize that.
You look at Florida, right? The cost of rebuilding Florida is 25-30% higher than it would have been a year ago, right? So, and we were talking about the other day, and like, where do they put all that stuff? There's not a landfill big enough for 5 counties of rubble. right? So, I mean, maybe they're just going to have to burn it. I don't know what they're going to do with it. So, but the cost to rebuild those properties are going to be more.
They're going to ship it to Ohio.
That's okay.
We got plenty of land, right?
I mean, you've seen those pictures. I mean, it's like a bomb went off, right? So, well, where do you put all that stuff? So, but you know, if you don't control oil, everything changes, and a lot of this economy is driven by oil.
Because what about the news that Russia and OPEC have gotten together and the Saudis?
And they want to cut the oil supply.
We're going to cut the supply to drive the prices back up.
So, you know, look, we have enough oil here in this country. We'll get political again, so let's not go there. But look, we have enough oil, our own oil. We're oil independent 2 years ago. Enough said. Okay, so what else you got there, Tony? Mr. Shore?
Well, you know, we were talking inflation. I saw a headline today that says, now this is CNBC said this morning, and it was like their second headline after the Dow slump. It said a quarter of Americans are expecting to delay their retirement due to rising costs and inflation, according to a new study. So 25%.
On that, we should be
hearing that happening.
Yeah, well, for sure. And we should be hearing today, actually, about officially the Social Security cost of living increase for next year. What did we say? It was going to be around 8.9% or something like that?
Yeah, they said it's going to be the highest since 1980, the biggest increase since 1981. And I don't know if that's happened yet, has it?
Where's that money coming from?
Yeah.
Just taking it off the back end. So, Tony Marlette, you better save your own money. But
that's why,
it's not going to be around when Tony Marlette gets there.
There's a warning on the website, and I put this in an article that I wrote about a warning from Social Security, basically saying if you're scheduled to claim benefits in 2035 or later, then you're probably going to see a shortfall. It's not, people say, well, it's not going to be there for me. That's not necessarily correct. It's just going to be less than what you should be.
Yeah, it'll be there as long as there are people working. Social Security is going to be there. There's just going to be a shortfall, but there are ways that they can make that shortfall up. I mean, they'll raise
stop spending money on Mars.
Well, you also
they're not going to do that. They're probably still going to do that.
You know, the most income that they tax on Social Security, and Tony, like you, I'm not advocating for more taxes or more government intervention here, but you're only taxing Social Security wages, or you're taxing wages for Social Security up to $147,000. Why not make it more? And I think most people, high earners, would be on board with that if they could say, well, you know what, there's a tangible benefit here. Either I'm going to be getting more Social Security or more money's going into the system versus spending it.
We need the super wealthy like Chris Anselmo to pay more into Social Security.
Don't get him started on that, Tony. We need a new podcast for that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is, the thing that, like in Medicare, you pay, and then Social Security gets capped off, Tony, you said it, as you get to certain levels, but, maybe they'll just have to raise that. I don't think they can uncap it because, the guy who's making $10 million a year, does he have to keep paying it? Because there's a limit on how much Social Security will pay. I don't know what the number is, $3,000 or $4,000 a month, whatever it is.
3,600 or something.
So,
3,600.
If the guy's paying in, a boatload of money, he's never going to get anything more back. It's not really fair to him either, or her.
Yeah, no, right? You can scale it up. You don't have to go right away and say uncap it, but you can scale it up.
Yeah,
move it up to 200,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So it's like they got to do something, or God forbid they should just cut spending. Right. I mean,
my
look
side hurts from the laughter, Chris.
Look at all the projects. I told you to one another podcast where I was actually in Italy, right? And the only broadcast on English was like, I don't know, CNN. I don't know what it was. It was some travel channel, whatever it was. And there was people out there on this ocean vessel, this probably $1 billion ship, whatever it was. And they're like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, we're cataloging every known species every species in the ocean. Like, what? Like, first of all, how would you ever know you got them all, right? And then they're like, so they asked them, like, well, at the current pace, how long is this going to take? 500 years. Like, who's paying for this, right? I mean, and why do we need to know? And it's just, stuff like that they spend money on. They could be spending it on nursing homes, right? They could be spending on Social Security. So, yeah, that's a whole other soap opera.
I got,
and I think everybody, like, not everybody, but I would say the vast majority of Americans agree, right? We don't need needless spending, but it doesn't get done.
Here we are. Yeah.
So
that was a good discussion.
Yeah. And for our listeners, we're having a pumpkin smash, Tony. So we own a little piece of land next door to our building, and we're going to do it, I think, November 5th. So the kids could come. There's going to be games and food trucks and stuff, so they could come smash all their pumpkins. And
Tony, we tried to book the Smashing Pumpkins, but they declined.
Tony, Brian, he's the right. Look at all those albums back there.
Yeah.
I guarantee he's listened to some Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, yeah.
We tried to get them. They were busy. Billy Corgan said no.
Yeah. They're gonna. Billy said no. They don't say yes to any gig, even with a lot of money. But your Smashing Pumpkin event probably wouldn't be enough to draw them out.
Yeah. So and what we're doing, we're raising some money for our charity. We have a charity we fund to help mortgage assistance and food assistance and things like that for the locals. And so we hoping to raise a little bit of money. Like it's $5.
Good.
It's $5
well,
to come to.
If it's for charity, I mean, we joke about it, but you should send an email to Billy Corgan's management and say, hey, we want the Smashing Pumpkins to perform at this charity event.
They don't have to. They could just donate, right? They don't have to show it.
Or donate. Yeah, maybe he can autograph some albums and you can give away some Smashing Pumpkin albums.
It's pretty cheap. It's $5 to come, right? So it's not a big thing. So and we'll probably have a food truck there and all kinds of games for the kids. So but all right. So we're almost a half hour into this. So I'll have to take it. Tony, you want to take us out?
All right. Tony Marlette can give the information.
All right. So if you want to schedule with us, go over a financial review, have us take a look at everything. You can schedule online at brooksidetax.com or give us a call 440-886-3550. And as old sales manager always told me, repeat that number in a different 440-886-3550, because as adults, we remember last four numbers like 3550. Better than we do 3550.
And it's zero, and it's zeros, not O's, right? So
right.
All right. Great show today, guys. That does it.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Take care.